So, hi, Dr. Vaibhav. Hope you're doing well.
Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well too. And thank you for accepting our invitation to be a part of the Beyond Dream series by the Next Gen Entrepreneur team. And we are joined in today by Dr. Vaibhav Bhatia. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Lamark Biotech. To give a brief about his startup, right? Like Biotech is founded in 2018 and they developed their proprietary molecular medicine, therapeutic proteins, gene therapies, and cell therapy based products. And their flagship product is InsulinStrong, which is a crystalline form of recombinant human insulin, which is refrigeration independent and used for treating type 1 diabetes. And other products in the pipeline are Askin for treating diabetes, Oncolleytic for treating solid tumors, and AgeIn for treating neurodegenerative diseases. So, we are happy to have you with us today, and we'd like to know more about yourself and also about your entrepreneurship journey, how it all started, what was the inducing point, and more, please.
Okay, it's a big question. So to start with, I
Mm-hmm.
come from Delhi.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I was born in a Punjabi family.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, my grandfather moved from the part of Punjab, which is in Pakistan now. It's called
Okay.
Lalpur then, and it's Faisalabad now. So
Mm-hmm.
they came here in 1947 after division. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a refugee colony where we all were born and brought up to some extent.
Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm.
It's well maintained thing.
Mm-hmm.
It is not as bad as you see in many countries now, but it started like that.
Uh-huh.
And my dad had a very transferable job, so he was
Mm-hmm.
in marketing for Apollo Tires.
Mm-hmm.
And I moved to many cities to finish my schooling. Just to give you a number, I joined around 11 schools to finish till my 12th
Okay.
standard. So
Like
that's how
every
it
year
happened.
you'd kind of, shifted.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Yes. By the time I could make a friend, he will shift. So initially, I used to take
Okay.
like a year to make a friend, and I was like, okay, bye
Mm-hmm.
bye. And then I like, okay, you have to be
Uh-huh.
faster. So I have to be in like 10
Right.
days. You have to have a friend, so you can spend like a year with them.
Uh-huh.
It started like that. I was as a child, I was curious, so I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to become a scientist, and that's
Okay.
how I started with getting into science. I was not a
Mm-hmm.
great student, but I wanted to get into science,
Mm-hmm.
research mainly, and for that I kind of managed to get into Indian Institute of Sciences for my
Mm-hmm.
PhD,
Mm-hmm.
and where I worked on protein folding, and it was a fun, very nice project, which was about
Okay.
night blindness. So
Mm-hmm.
vitamin A. So
Mm-hmm.
vitamin A you eat from many things. There are many foods that are rich in vitamin A,
Mm-hmm.
but it is cannot be transported as vitamin A. So it has to be transported with a protein. It's like a cup and tea. So the cup
Uh-huh.
is like a protein in which vitamin A has to be put, and it circulates
Mm-hmm.
inside the blood and goes to your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And that protein has a very peculiar role in folding and regulation. I don't want to bore your viewers here, but
Mm-hmm.
it had an important role
Mm-hmm.
in night blindness.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was studying it's like understanding how to make hypotheses, how to create things, and I wanted to understand why people age, why people get a disease, and those were
Okay.
the questions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I started. After my PhD, which was in Bangalore in 2009, I
Mm-hmm.
tried to start a company, and
Okay.
because of very good financials that a PhD student gets, I'm being sarcastic here,
Uh-huh.
we were not able to
Yeah.
survive as soon as
Mm-hmm.
scholarship is over. So I have to move.
Mm-hmm.
I went for my postdoc to Spain. It's a
Okay.
city in south of Spain. It's called Seville. Very
Mm-hmm.
beautiful city. Yeah, I suggest everybody to go to south of Spain. It's very much
Mm-hmm.
like India with some cultural differences. And
Okay.
I worked there on breast cancer,
Mm-hmm.
and we published very good. And then I joined another lab where we worked on age-related macular degeneration. It's a
Mm-hmm.
kind of blindness which happens in old age.
Mm-hmm.
It's a progressive disease. So people above 60, they start losing their eyesight.
Mm-hmm.
And this was one thing. And but around like 12, 13 years in this thing, I
Mm-hmm.
realized that whatever I do, it's always research, and it's very difficult to make a product out of it. Somebody would
Yeah.
get used. Like the
Mm-hmm.
study I did for vitamin A is like maybe in another 100 years somebody will be able to make a product out
Mm-hmm.
of it.
Yeah.
And I thought, let's do something about that. So I had
Mm-hmm.
some projects in head, and I tried to see if I could make a company out of it, make a
Mm-hmm.
product, find people. And I realized there is a very different story when it comes to creating a startup, creating a
Mm-hmm.
company. You not only have to think about the science, which is very important, it has to be very
Yeah.
strong science.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, it has to have a very good business sense. It has to make
Yes.
profit, it has to be self-sustaining.
Mm-hmm.
So then I had, because I had some savings, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, should I do an MBA to learn all these things? Who is going to teach me that?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the sense prevailed, and I thought, okay, I'm not going to go for an MBA. I'll
Okay.
jump into something. I'll put my money into an idea, and then see, and I'll learn into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I started my first company, which was a spin-off from University of Granada, which is another city in south of
Okay.
Spain, with some friends.
Mm-hmm.
And this is working on cell therapies.
Mm-hmm.
So the company was already there, but I joined them as a co-founder,
Okay.
and we developed a business around making cell therapies for cancer
Mm-hmm.
patients.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it's a very nice idea where you take the patient's cell.
Okay. Okay.
So immunity, right?
Yes.
Immunity
Mm-hmm.
is a way where body fights, many
Mm-hmm.
diseases. There
Mm-hmm.
are some cells called T cells, B cells, which are part of that immunity,
Mm-hmm.
and these cells act as soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
And normally, you soldiers in the body have a gun, small gun.
Mm-hmm.
What you do is you take them out, you do genetically modify them, and give them, say, a rocket launcher or something, so they can be
Right.
way fatal.
Mm-hmm.
So you get them out, you upgrade them from soldiers to commandos, and
Mm-hmm.
then you multiply them into millions and reintroduce them into the body, and they can go and
Okay.
fight the cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and this is actually a medicine developed by Novartis. It's called Kimbria,
Mm-hmm.
and it has got a lot of side effects because many times these soldiers also go and fight other things.
Uh-huh.
They fight normal people, they kill
Non-target.
them, like
Non-target
exactly.
cells.
So these are
Mm-hmm.
called side effects, and there
Mm-hmm.
is something called neurotoxicity with that. So our
Mm-hmm.
company was involved in reducing those toxic side effects by
Mm-hmm.
creating a kind of a communication mechanism with the soldiers. From outside, you can say stop,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
and they stop. So that's the company's idea, was how to
Mm-hmm.
stop them sometimes when you don't want them.
Okay.
But this therapy, cost around €1 million per person. It's a
Mm-hmm.
personalized therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, being an Indian, you always think about how you can, make sure that you
Cost
reach to
effective.
most of the
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Exactly, and this is where I started, and I was like, I came down, 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 and then I
Mm-hmm.
realized that insulin, which was discovered around 100 years back,
Mm-hmm.
is still not accessible to around 50% of the population, diabetic population who
Right.
need them.
Mm-hmm.
And we asked why is the case, and we realized it's mainly the cost. And then why
Mm-hmm.
is the cost? And we realized the cost is, of course, there is artificial cost,
Mm-hmm.
where companies want to get more profit,
Right.
but they don't have alternative because there is a lot of risk in quality
Mm-hmm.
control and all. They said, so there was this two professors who were working, and I interacted with them, and I found that
Mm-hmm.
they were working on making proteins more stable.
Mm-hmm.
And like, why don't we get into some insulin thing? And this also happened with during 2017-18,
Mm-hmm.
where we developed a formulation to keep the insulin stable at room temperature.
Okay.
And
Mm-hmm.
we saw our proof of concept, and it was amazing. And it was like, wow. And like,
Mm-hmm.
what should we do? And then we went around Europe to everybody. It's like, we can keep your insulin out of the refrigerator. And then
Right.
people are like, we have refrigerator everywhere. Why do you want to keep it out of refrigerator? And I was like,
Okay.
yeah, that's true. So that's where it comes that it's not the pain point for Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came to India in 2019 just to do a
Okay.
short survey and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to companies like GSK, Dr. Reddy's,
Mm-hmm.
Bharat Biotech, and the top grass of the companies were like, that would be amazing, because if you can make thermostable
Mm-hmm.
proteins formulations, that would be great.
Yeah.
For example, we had an interaction with Dr. Krishna and from Bharat Biotech, and
Mm-hmm.
he mentioned it would be great if we can have veterinary vaccines, because
Yes.
farmers, they don't have cold chain access.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's good, that would be great. And
Mm-hmm.
then other people came, and they was like, this is good. So
Yeah.
when we got enough confidence that this is a good place to put our life in,
Mm-hmm.
in 2000, I think 19 end, we started working on making money out of some grants or something to take it forward. We
Okay.
talked to few companies. Lately,
Mm-hmm.
we have been working with some big companies also,
Mm-hmm.
and we have ventured not only in diabetes now, but we are working in ophthalmology,
Mm-hmm.
as well as lung cancer,
Mm-hmm.
where the idea is to not only make it thermostable, but also be able to make uh, more concentrated injections, so you don't have to put
Okay.
multiple injections,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
this is very important for ophthalmology, for
Mm-hmm.
retinopathies,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to inject these anti-VEGF molecules into the eye. It's a
Okay.
intravitreal injection.
Mm-hmm.
So getting an injection into the eye every month is a trouble, you can understand.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's what we are trying to do, to reduce these injections from once in a month to once in 6 months or a year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kind of, so making protein stable is, yes,
Mm-hmm.
our core job, but it has got multiple implications. So that's how
Yeah.
we are working in multiple
Mm-hmm.
directions.
That's
It
quite
was you had a
interesting.
short question, but it's a long
Yeah,
answer. Sorry
no,
for
no, no,
that.
yeah, we'd like to, understand, as you, shift from transitions from academia to, entrepreneurship. As a biotech student myself, and also being in a research career, I can truly understand,
Uh-huh.
because we do a lot of research, publish papers, and that's the end of it. We don't even go back to see any viable market product out of it. So that's actually that's a very big gap between the academia and also the biotech market itself, which needs to be solved. And it's great to see, people like you who are venturing out and then, taking a chance. Like that's actually a risk, because starting a biotech company is not a joke. And you would have had a lot of initial challenges, because in biotech we need a proper infrastructure, which needs a lot of funding, and also a very core team, which is who are, persistent with you and more. Like, what were your initial challenges? If you could just give us some glances of it.
The first challenge was to get, as I mentioned, I was working on vitamin A, breast cancer,
Mm-hmm.
and retinopathies. But the biggest challenge for a scientist, this is
Mm-hmm.
one thing. Who can do a deep tech business? You need to have understand deep tech business, but you should not
Yeah.
be emotionally attached to what you have done. Okay, that's
Yes.
also important. So
Mm-hmm.
initial idea in the head was the first challenge is you yourself for, and
Mm-hmm.
the idea the challenge is, don't get into that because I know this is going to be the great thing in market.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look from the perspective of the customer, the
Mm-hmm.
market, which is just against the intuition of a scientist. Scientist
Okay.
thinks, he believes, he's like a,
Mm-hmm.
science is like, it's not a belief, it's, but they believe in facts, but
Mm-hmm.
their whole process starts from their head. But
Yes.
business
Mm-hmm.
starts from somebody else's head. It's
Yeah.
somebody's understanding somebody else. And that was the first challenge. So not
Mm-hmm.
working on something that I was working on and getting into somebody else idea and trying
Right.
to see how to make it, getting into market first, understanding the problem, and then creating solution,
Mm-hmm.
instead of thinking
Mm-hmm.
about, oh, I have a solution for something. That was the
Right.
first challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Second challenge, I would say, as you mentioned, is to find facilities. Bootstrapping in IT is quite easy. You can get a computer.
Mm-hmm.
You can put a page online, and people can
Yeah.
come. You can count. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
happen that way. If you want to do an animal experiment, I can get you. We wanted to inject our insulin into the mice and
Mm-hmm.
see what happens. And it was not easy, finding
Mm-hmm.
somebody who can do it for us, and
Right.
ethical
Mm-hmm.
committee permission and all those work that happens around.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not easy to get that data. Then every instrument that we want to use is like in lakhs, if not crores.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have that kind of money to even rent it,
Yeah.
forget about buying, as a
Mm-hmm.
bootstrapping person. So those
Mm-hmm.
technical challenges were there.
Mm-hmm.
And third, yes, as you mentioned, human resource is a big challenge.
Yeah.
And people who are good, they already
Mm-hmm.
have a job, so they can't be 100% dedicated to you.
Mm-hmm.
And people who could be 100% dedicated, many a times they don't have that particular expertise that you need.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
even in you, if you are a biochemist, yourself,
Mm-hmm.
a biotechnologist, you would
Mm-hmm.
know that just one book of technology, you put up
Yes.
one chapter and 2 pages of that one, so you can spend your whole life on those 2 pages.
Yes.
That's what one
Mm-hmm.
technique, that's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you it's very difficult to find people who,
Mm-hmm.
as a startup you have to train, and
Mm-hmm.
that again you require money. But we were very
Yeah.
lucky. I was very lucky, I can say. I
Mm-hmm.
found support from IKP, which is Hyderabad,
Mm-hmm.
and BIRAC. When I came back to India in 2019, and I went to Spain, BIRAC was not there,
Mm-hmm.
and the ideas we had, they could not be taken off. You need some fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came back, BIRAC was there, National
Mm-hmm.
Biopharma Mission was there, and
Mm-hmm.
all these support groups that have come from government side
Mm-hmm.
has made a huge impact. And a lot of these challenges could be taken head
Mm-hmm.
on with these
Right.
with the help of these people.
Mm-hmm.
And plus the ecosystem has developed, so there are people who
Mm-hmm.
understand what you are talking about, because you
Right.
see, you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about something in future. It's
Mm-hmm.
like telling somebody, अरे कल कल तुम्हारे साथ ये होगा, like
हाँ
भविष्यवाणी
हाँ
करते चलो.
प्रेडिक्ट
So
करके
you
हाँ
talk, हाँ,
हम्म
इतना
it's
prediction,
prediction
and people are like, how do you know? Okay,
हम्म
to make a drug you can spend 20 million to 100 million, anything.
हम्म
And they're like, ठीक है, 100 million डाल दिया, how do you know it's going to work? You don't know.
हाँ right
So you are predicting.
हम्म
And that kind of language people would not understand before. Like, मैं अपना
right
100 million तुझ पे डालने से अच्छा एक फरारी खरीदूंगा, घूमूंगा. Why should I
mm
put on you? Or I'll put in stocks with running companies.
mm-hmm.
So, this high risk, high return
Mm-hmm.
thing was not a cup of tea for India before.
Yeah
But now you go to talk to investors, they
mm-hmm.
realize, the potential it has.
Mm-hmm.
And, so there are people who understand your language. So
Mm-hmm.
that barrier, because of BIRAC, IKP, CCAMP, there are
Mm-hmm.
many others who have come up, Atal Incubator.
Mm-hmm.
And these people have really helped us fight those initial barriers that we had of bootstrapping, especially bootstrapping phase. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's quite good. I mean, it's nice to know that we have a lot of support, in also in terms of government aided one, like government aids a lot of biotech and drug development companies, and it's really a need of the hour as we see like post-pandemic era, how much we need, some precautions drugs developed and also vaccines. So we understood the need of it. I mean, we can't develop something in a span of 1 or 2 years. There should be some research already going on, and we really understood as a common public would have understood the need for research in this field. And also talking about pandemic, right? As you started and you said like you started 2019 was when you got the work was going and flowing and more. Like how was it pandemic, the whole pandemic scene for you? What were your experience from it, if you could share with us?
Okay, so in fact, that was a turning point, because, as I
Mm-hmm.
said, I came back here in 2000, end of 2019,
Mm-hmm.
and we applied for some grants and some World Bank grants. We
Mm-hmm.
we received very positive response. In fact, it was like kind of
Okay.
done,
Mm-hmm.
and we opened the lab in February,
Mm-hmm.
uh, here in VIT Vellore, uh,
Okay.
and
Uh-huh.
by March everything was closed. So
Yeah.
you can't do anything. It's
Right.
like, I just took a place here,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing has come. It just opened the door and closed the door. And then
Mm-hmm.
it took us around a year to open the door again.
Okay.
And that happens, for many companies. It was
Mm-hmm.
pandemic this time, but
Mm-hmm.
survival is one of the part
Yes.
of management.
Mm-hmm.
The good thing was I was in Vellore and not in Bangalore or Delhi or
Mm-hmm.
Bombay, which is very costly to survive.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to survive
Mm-hmm.
that way.
Mm-hmm.
This is something good about India. I would suggest every entrepreneur that
Mm-hmm.
if you are starting, go to a tier two city. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
don't jump in tier one.
Mm-hmm.
They are costly, and especially when you're in testing phase. And there are a lot of good facilities being provided in smaller cities, and
Right.
you can really get a lot of stuff there done.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one thing that helped us. But it was a very tough phase,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of survival. The project got delayed by around 18 months, because when you're
Okay.
not moving forward, you're moving backward.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
We are very global, with a very global outlook. We kept our Spanish lab running, but still that
Mm-hmm.
was also closed. So yeah, it was kind
Mm-hmm.
of impossible to do anything that point of time. It took us
Mm-hmm.
1 year, but we spent that part in differently.
Mm-hmm.
We did a lot of marketing. We negotiated
Okay. Mm-hmm.
in different directions. We were
Mm-hmm.
able to make, all the online things we could do, we did.
Mm-hmm.
And we were successfully able to spend time in a lot of stuff which does not require a lab, like legal part, marketing part,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
pricing development and all those things. So we were able to do that.
Yeah, because in biotech we need people on ground, right? We need people on labs to work and make things, do the experiments, test it out and more, and we could really understand that. And it's nice, any startup it survives pandemic, you can survive anything. So
Yeah.
it is actually a testing phase which happened for all, and it's good that it taught a lot of lessons to everybody, and great that you survived it. And also like coming to other things, right? Like your unique value proposition now is a chronic diseases, as I see, like diabetes and ophthalmological cancer. Like uh, mostly a value proposition in is targeting proteins, or if you could just give some glimpses on it.
Our key activity is formulation. That's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
We mainly take proteins and we formulate them differently. So they could be same insulin, which is being used for 100 years, but if it
Okay.
is thermostable, it can help access around, it can double the market access for any
Mm-hmm.
company. It can reduce
Yeah.
the pricing, by 20 to 30%.
Yeah.
Um, that's what we do. The key activity there is formulation. We
Mm-hmm.
started with the insulin because it is a requirement. One of the WHO's thing there that you want to increase the access of insulin. That's
Mm-hmm.
how we started.
Mm-hmm.
But the formulation, we provide other value propositions like extension of life cycle. So there
Mm-hmm.
are drugs which are going off patent, and you can formulate them differently. So that's one thing we
Okay.
do.
Mm-hmm.
There are, as I mentioned, sustained release ones where you can inject the drug and they are slowly released. So it's possibly the same drug,
Mm-hmm.
but being slowly released, it gives you a better pharmacoprofile. And
Mm-hmm.
so these are but everything comes out of
Okay.
formulation part.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The drug substance means discovery of new drugs and all. We don't do ourselves at all. We
Okay.
rely on. So we are interacting with a French university now. So we have
Mm-hmm.
taken a new first-in-class molecule also to formulate it, and we
Okay.
are working with them.
Mm-hmm.
And but again, the core component that we provide there is formulating it in a high concentration and in stable
Okay.
formulation. That's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, that's quite interesting. I mean, now than developing something from scratch, addressing the limitations and then providing a solution for it, it's really good. And also, like your work happens in India, right? The base lab or the core work happens in your facility, as we understand.
We
Mm-hmm.
are very horizontal. Yes, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
work happens in India, in Vellore,
Mm-hmm.
but we do have labs in collaborations in other parts of the world.
Okay, okay, that's good to know. And also, like, you have any interesting future plans if you could share with us, like upcoming plans or something? Yeah.
I mean, every day is very exciting. I can't say
Mm-hmm.
anything, specifically like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we means getting into different diseases. We try to stay disease agnostic. We try to focus
Mm-hmm.
on the molecular biology, how we are
Okay.
targeting,
Mm-hmm.
and there are always exciting molecules coming across. There are
Mm-hmm.
people who come across with, okay, we can do this, we can do that.
Right.
Um, so that way we are trying to see if we can give every 6 months something exciting.
Mm-hmm.
But development of anything takes around 7 to 8 years in
Yeah.
this. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say we are a very boring company, but very necessary.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, that's how biotech is. It is,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Yes.
better it stays boring, because if we
Mm-hmm.
venture into too many things, too many exciting things, and it
Yeah.
will not happen, so easily.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep it, subtle. It is like
Yeah.
that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for me, exciting is that for 100 years, a drug like insulin is not being accessed by most of the
Mm-hmm.
people on the planet. I would be very happy. That would be more exciting thing for me. That the
Mm-hmm.
same drug which is not there for 100 years
Mm-hmm.
for everybody is actually there to 80% of the world. If I can do
Yes.
that, that's gonna be very
Yes.
exciting for me.
Yeah, that's actually a quite interesting innovation, you did there because it would cut lot of cost in supply chain and also, make it accessible to remote villages in India, Africa, and whatnot, right? It can reach the lower, income countries and who are on the verge of, having this chronic diabetes epidemic like for generations together. So it's really a good thing and great that we have an Indian, playing a role there and really proud there. And thank you, Dr. Vaibhav, for your time
Thanks
today.
to you.
And we'd like to know what was the most rewarding experience for you, like from your start of, in the entrepreneurship journey. If you could just give one or two instances which made you feel more rewarding and yeah.
As I said, means the day I don't feel rewarding, or it is not a great day. Like talking to you is very rewarding today. Somebody coming and showing interest in what we are doing is very nice. And when people come and work with us and they spend their sweat and blood,
Mm-hmm.
because they like big people, who have been working in industry with cost to
Yeah.
companies in crores. they come and
Mm-hmm.
work for us for free, and they said, we really want this to go and go
Mm-hmm.
into the market. We want to help you with that kind of attitude. So that's very rewarding. You see
Okay.
somebody who has worked in industry for 30, 35 years, and they say,
Mm-hmm.
look, Vaibhav, I'll come there, don't worry about money, I'll help you,
Yeah.
I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of words you say, that's the biggest reward we get.
Mm-hmm.
And then you talk to patient societies sometimes, and mm, like my sister-in-law, she's a diabetic, she's type 1 diabetic.
Mm-hmm.
And when she heard about the thing, she's like, is it in market, can I go and buy it? As like,
Mm-hmm.
this is a reward. Like, yeah, I feel okay,
Yes.
this is very far.
Mm-hmm.
It's a process that we have to go through. But
Mm-hmm.
these are the kind of communications that you get. You
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, you're on the right track, and you fail or
Yes.
pass is a different thing, but every day is exciting then.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's really interesting. And thank you for sharing. And we'd like to take two takeaways from you for aspiring entrepreneurs and biotech students who want to start, venture into this entrepreneurship journey. Like, if you could just, from your experience, could give some two words of advice for them.
And my advice is, don't think from your head,
Mm-hmm.
think from somebody else's head. That's the best way to start a company, because whether you are working with other people, you are
Mm-hmm.
trying to think, how the other people who are working with you are thinking at that point of time, what they are feeling. Because as a startup, you don't pay people so well. So you have to
Mm-hmm.
really be empathetic in their sense. And then you don't start a company because you have a solution. You start a
Mm-hmm.
company because you can see the problem. So
Right.
find the problem,
Mm-hmm.
quantify the problem. That's the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Unless and until you are very clear
Mm-hmm.
about the problem, don't worry if you don't have a solution, because technology will help you to find a solution. But the
Right.
problem has to be there.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I would say. And go and talk to. This is one good thing, and this is the benefit of actually COVID times.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk to any company. I can give you
Right.
example. Nobody said no to me when I called them.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was the CEO of Bharat Biotech or GSK or Biocon, I was able to
Mm-hmm.
reach everybody, and people were like very welcoming. People are very
Mm-hmm.
welcoming to talk to you, especially now with the Zoom and all. They don't say,
Yes.
okay, हमें कहीं जाना पड़ेगा, आना पड़ेगा. All
Mm-hmm.
those things are not there.
Yeah.
So, just talk to people, try to understand the problem. That's all you have.
Mm-hmm.
And technology you will develop. Yeah,
Yeah, that's quite nice. And thank you. Thank you for sharing and thank you for your time today, Dr. Vaibhav.
my
It was
pleasure.
great having the
My pleasure.
interaction with you, and we hope it helps a lot of biotech students to, venture out and, take an example from such inspiring entrepreneurs. Thank you. Have a good
Thanks
day.
to you, Mayuri. You take care. Bye.
Bye.